Hey, everybody. Welcome to Cleveland. Mike Catalana, Jenna Cottrell, Dan Fates in Rochester, and we are ready for Let's Talk Football live here on Facebook and the Buffalo Plus YouTube page. And, Dan, I got to tell you, this is the best weather we've had in hours. It's only sprinkling, and it's not so bad. How are things back at home?
It's also raining, too, but I'm inside. Mike, remember, you were telling me this year, that, Dan, don't feel bad that Jenna gets to go to this draft. Next year we're in Vegas. So,
right.
so like you said, you're very spot on with this. Because next year it'll probably be 100, but it'll be dry.
In fact, I mentioned that to Jenna a little while ago when we were soaked like drowned rats, I believe is the phrase that's been used a few times tonight. And I said, well, at least Dan gets to go to Vegas next year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, remember when I said don't be mad at me for going to the draft? I'm mad at myself for the weather that we're currently in right now. Some wind, some rain, but a lot going on behind us right now.
Yeah, they're getting ready. Look, we've been to this a few times. It's a great show, and it gives people of Cleveland a lot of credit because the weather hasn't really been good for them to come out, but there's a lot of people here.
There are.
I mean, there's people lined up to our left. We've seen Rochester people all over the place. And what a lot of people want to know, Dan, they want to know what the Bills are going to do tonight. I think that's the big thought on this team. And Dan, I guess when we look at it this way, isn't it interesting that the Bills are sitting back? The Bills have a championship caliber roster, and they're watching the other teams, even the ones in their own division, really scramble to try to get their identities.
Yeah, and it's an interesting dynamic in the fact that there will be 5 picks that are made by other teams in the division before the Bills are scheduled to be on the clock right now.
Yeah.
You have the Jets have 2 picks, the Dolphins have 2 picks, and then you have the Patriots there at 15. Look, a ton of crazy things can happen. Just earlier today, Tim Tebow's news got totally squashed that he could be possibly making a return for the Jags because Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to play in Green Bay anymore. So I know he's not necessarily linked to any team in the AFC East, but could he possibly go to would New England be a player? I don't know. You're looking at a bunch of different things where this is going to be a very interesting night, guys. And that's
scary.
We were talking like at the 6 o'clock show where there's a lot of uncertainty, but there's almost that creativity of they could trade up, they could trade back, they could draft at 30. You really have no clue what Beane is going to do.
Well, you guys know I have a lot of theories, and I like to bring them up. And you do remember 2 things. I called that it was going to be Aaron Rodgers last year in Green Bay a year early.
You did say that.
And then the year before, I called that Bill Belichick was going to leave Foxborough to go to Green Bay to coach Aaron Rodgers. So 2 of my theories could come together if Aaron Rodgers got traded to New England to play for Belichick.
You're really trying to will this into
I want
existence.
That. It's almost,
it sounds like the Bills trading for Zach Ertz and bringing a tight end like him. It kind of sounds exactly like that.
Dan, the Zach Ertz thing is happening tonight, isn't it?
No, it's not. It's not going to happen, period. The Bills are going to draft a tight end. If you don't understand the long-running joke of here on BuffaloPress.com, for the longest time, it seems like this entire offseason, Mike is convinced that Zach Ertz would be a perfect fit in Buffalo, and that it would also make the Eagles, they would get a consolation prize for having to move on from an $8 million salary of a tight end that's been injured and is, I would say, kind of over the hill.
Okay. You might say that. He hasn't really been injured. He got hurt at the end of last year, and he would be by far the best tight end the Bills have ever put on the field. Now, again, they may go out for a draft pick. They may get Zach Ertz on this final year of his deal and see how it works out.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really have the option of pushing them to do more if they were to make that move. I think Ertz is going to be on another roster next year, one way or the other. And the Bills, let's face it, the Bills need that type of player. Now, you mentioned in the draft, we don't know in terms of if they could get a tight end. I know, Dan, you had one in your mock draft, right? You had the Bills picking up a tight end in the mock draft.
Yeah, 3rd round Hunter Long out of Boston College, 6'5", 250, runs really well.
Yeah, he sounds like a tight end. Boston College, Hunter Long, the tight end. He just sounds like a tight end. I get that, and maybe that is the case. And the one thing I think fans need to keep in mind tonight and all weekend when it comes to the Bills draft, Jenna, is the idea that Brandon Beane says, we look short term and we look long term. Long term for this team is over the next 3 years when Josh Allen has his new contract.
Yeah, because that plays into it so much in terms of the money. Look, Josh Allen is going to get paid a lot after we saw what he did last year. The expectations continue to rise, but that affects how much money they'll have to pay other players. And we always talk about, obviously, the fact that Allen has kind of taken this offense, this team to the next level, but they were in the AFC Championship last year. They are a couple players away. They need to tweak and fine-tune. But this team, they want long-term success, and that's going to come from drafting the players that are the best available right now.
Right.
I mean, we hear Brandon Beane say that so much, but I think this is a team that they don't need to draft for a glaring hole, and that is the upside. So they can kind of sit back, pick and choose, and see what they see as opposed to being pressured into picking, okay, we have to go with this guy.
Yeah, Dan, and I think an interesting thing to see tonight could be if the Bills relatively early in this draft pick a linebacker. And the only reason I say that is because, Tremaine Edmonds has that fifth-year option, and it's an issue, not specifically because of Tremaine, because he's made the Pro Bowl a couple times. He's been a good player for him. But that's a big money decision to make going forward, along with Josh Allen's contract. And they paid Matt Milano already. And I'm not saying they're moving on from Tremaine Edmonds. But what I'm saying is there the possibility that they don't pick up the fifth-year option on a player with his ability? It doesn't guarantee that he would be gone, but it also opens up the possibility of them doing something else without extending him. Now, that's kind of a long shot thing to think about, but in the back of their mind, I think you have to be thinking about players like Cole Beasley. Maybe not Tremaine Edmonds as much because of his youth, but Jerry Hughes, we've talked about that a lot. I mean, obviously Mario Addison. Even both of the safeties. As much as we love the safety combo, and I think it might be, if it's not the best in the league, it's close. What about a year from now? Certainly, what about 2 years from now? And that could be guys, Dan, they're looking at in the draft tonight.
Two things, Mike. To your first point about could you just let Tremaine Edmonds play out that contract? You have to worry about the message that would send to the locker room. It's a big statement saying we don't. I guess I just think back to when Shaq Lawson, when they didn't pick up his fifth year. Now, like I said, they didn't draft him. This organization, this front office didn't. But that was pretty much saying, like, you're gone.
Right.
And what was Shaq saying all the time in the locker room? No cap. I'm going to get my cap. All that stuff. Like he was very adamant, and it became what I felt like a more personal, individual thing. That doesn't seem like what this team wants to be. They traded up to get Tremaine Edmonds. He's made 2 Pro Bowls. Mike, I don't know if you know this, but he's 22. He's still relatively young. And then to Jenna's point about drafting where there isn't a glaring hole right now, you want to try and it's tough. You don't want to have to be forced to, in a year from now, though, have a glaring hole and all of a sudden then be forced to do it. Where that's how we look at it. I think, the draft experts, analysts, the GMs, they look at it 2-3 years down the road, but so many people look at this offensive line and say, like, all these guys are under contract. Like, somebody could have a bad year, somebody could be injured. We never thought John Brown was going to be released when we were sitting here at this time last year. And all of a sudden, they add Gabe Davis, he slides right in. So, Mike, to your point, whether it's a linebacker, I look at it whether it could be another offensive guard, whether it's a defensive tackle. Maybe Ed Oliver wasn't the right fit. Whether Harrison Phillips didn't pan out. Like, you don't want to have to be sitting there and going, we have to take this corner. We have to take this defensive tackle. And that's where it's so tough for Beane to be really looking long-term and to find players cheap. Right, Jenna?
Yeah, because that's another piece of it, like we talked about. When you tie it into the contract extensions and other guys getting paid, Stephon Diggs, what they'll do with him in terms of the money, they need to find guys that are able to play on those rookie deals because that maximizes their window and what they can do with the talent that they have. So that is something that's huge. Also, of course, in the first round, there is that fifth-year option, what you decide to do with that. But there are so many players on the board tonight, and where the Bills kind of stand, they are, Mike, kind of at the top of the second round. So they can kind of dictate what they want to do, whether that is trade up or trade back or just see what they get, because it's a spot where you're so close to the second round, you're basically right there.
And I know fans would be really disappointed tonight if you get to 30 and old Rodgers goes up there and say there's been a trade and the Bills are trading back and you got to wait another 24 hours maybe until you see them pick again. But there is a real case to be made for that tonight, Dan, because, if if they have, as Beane spelled out, we ran it at 6 o'clock tonight, Brandon Beane talking about it, we've talked about it for the last week. If they're in a spot where there's no player specifically they feel like they have to have at that spot, and they have 4 or 5 guys, they trade back and get another pick and add more at that time. Now, I think there's going to be somebody there for him at 30. I think Brandon Beane's got his mind on a few players, and maybe he doesn't want to move back too far, and maybe he's looking more for quality than quantity tonight, or tonight and this whole week.
I also, Dan, can you explain to some of the fans out there the board and how much the board means to Brandon Beane, just to put that into perspective?
2 things that Brandon Beane loves. He loves the process and he loves his board. And pretty much what you do, from what he says, is you set your board, you make sure your board's right, and then you listen to it. There is not going to be any herky-jerk reaction or sudden movement from Brandon Beane tonight, because in his head, he has played out all of the scenarios that could possibly happen because his board tells him to. He's been saying that since he came here as the GM. He's been very adamant about it. And when you ask him about the difference of picking now at the back of the pack, because this is something, Mike, this is my 6th draft. Jen, I think this is your 7th draft. Mike's been doing this forever. That this is the lowest that the Bills have ever drafted to begin with at 30th. But they haven't drafted in this third half, the bottom third of this draft, in a really long time. But Brandon Beane says it doesn't matter where you're picking.
Right.
You just listen to your board. If the guy's there, then the guy's there. If he's not, then you trade back and try and build that draft capital. I think I've been walking into this whole kind of offseason, especially because they don't have that 4th-round pick. I think it's a 55% chance they trade back, 35% chance they stay and pick at 30, and then a 10% chance that they move up. I know that there has been rumors, and Todd McShay of ESPN has talked about them moving up. I just don't know why or if he would risk the long term. Like Jenna says, it's much more tweaking. And I wrote an article on Buffalo Plus that nobody that the Bills really draft this year is going to affect this year's team being a Super Bowl contender. This roster is already built, to Mike's point. But what the decisions and the people that they draft in the 2nd and 3rd and 5th round, that could help them be a contender for years to come.
Yeah. I would say this. You're right. They weren't in a position to draft in the later part of the 1st round in the past few years. But in 2017, they moved themselves back and picked 27th and got Tre'Davious White.
Yeah.
So Tre'Davious White would be a pretty good pickup in this year's draft, if you're following me in terms of finding a guy. And maybe it is Greg Newsome. Maybe it is Asante Samuel Jr., the guy that can step in. And the difference is, if you draft that guy now 30th, he's joining a team with, Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds and Jerry Hughes and the entire secondary. And I know we have comments. Jenna's got some comments.
Yeah, we have some really good comments. Tim on here, Tim MC, saying it's tough not to think defense with such a high-powered offense already. And I think that is a great comment, considering also these last couple of drafts more recently, you see the Bills kind of leaning more towards the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, Josh Allen, the outlier last year, they traded to get the Stephon Diggs, to get Stephon Diggs. But, I think there are some really great comments on here, because a lot of people are wondering, with there being so many ways the board can go, what this will mean for the team. Because, let's be real, I mean, the AFC Championship was so much fun last year, getting to see the Bills get there, but now it raises the bar every year. Now seeing Josh Allen do what he did, seeing the offense, seeing the defense play, it's like, okay, this was great, but how do we advance that? How do we get to the Super Bowl? And I know a lot of Bills fans are thinking exactly that. And like we said, it's those little moves that you have to make to sustain that long-term success, but also bring that short-term success. And it's going to be a huge piece tonight.
Hey, Dan, I mean, look at what they did in last year's draft, right? When you bring in Gabe Davis and Tyler Bass, what impact did those two guys have on the roster? Well, obviously, too. Zach Moss in the 3rd round. I mean, Gabe Davis was basically a starter, and Tyler Bass was outstanding. Hit a lot of big kicks with him. By the way, people were wondering about this trip. I am the umbrella holder for Jenna here.
Thank you.
I was the chauffeur to bring her here tonight. Anything to make her trip a little better.
Can you just stop the rain and the wind?
I know.
It's
that
raining
is a problem.
again. You know what? I feel like Sean McDermott. We're going to control what we can control. We're going to find a way.
And we will trust the process all night tonight. By the way, we thank everybody for being with us.
Yes.
This show is going to continue in another Forum 2 from 7:30 to 8. And in that show, we'll all be breaking down what we think are the three key, Dan's already hit on it, but really the three key draft positions that we think, especially in the first round or the first couple of rounds, the Bills could attack. Dan, cornerback, defensive end, edge rusher, and possibly running back. And I just wanted to say that to get the trigger going and get the comments going, because Dan is fully on board with the Travis Etienne pick in the first round, right? We're all good on that?
Yeah. See, this is the weird thing, guys. I think I fully talked myself into it. I think I have fully talked myself into Travis Etienne.
Whoa.
Yeah. Okay.
What is going on?
No, so this goes but this goes back to Tim's comment, where he said that with such a high-powered offense, how do you not go defense?
Right.
And in that respects, and there has been a lot of talk about Devin Singletary and people saying give him another chance, and that the O-line was just bad last year, and that Devin Singletary was good in 2019. Well, if Devin Singletary was good in 2019, then why did Brandon Beane go and spend a third-round pick on Zach Moss? If you knew that Devin Singletary was going to be the guy in the backfield, you wouldn't have spent a third-round pick. And that offense that Devin Singletary found...
Well, Frank Gore was gone, though.
Right. I get that, but you had TJ Yeldon. You could have signed a free agent cheaply and let Devin Singletary be the bell cow. And they didn't. They went and got Zach Moss. And that offense from 2019 is like an artifact in Buffalo. They are never going to go back to a run-heavy offense. That was when I asked Sean McDermott if he was satisfied with his offense, and he...
That changed the franchise.
Yes.
That really did.
Dan, you changed the entire franchise.
So I look at what this offense can be, Mike. And
can you be more specific, Coach? Yeah.
I look at what this offense can be, and again, growing this offense, because Emmanuel Sanders is only on a one-year deal. Cole Beasley has dealt with injuries.
Right.
We don't know what the tight end answer is going to be. The offensive line next year could be very different than what it is now. And you look at what this offense is going to be a pass-heavy offense built around Josh Allen. And right now, they don't have a running back on the team that really accentuates that pass-heavy, happy Josh Allen offense of letting him cook. Travis Etienne does. He catches the ball extremely well out of the backfield. He could be also a kick returner. He is that home run hitter that Brandon Beane said they don't have in the backfield. And they have it at a lot of other positions. Beane talked about his fastball, being the wide receivers. That's why he went out and got Emmanuel Sanders. Well, Emmanuel Sanders is not young, and he could be out of here in no time, too. So Travis Etienne, I think, helps build and grow this offense that was in place in 2020. And I can't believe I'm saying this. It doesn't mean I want to run the ball. That's not me saying I want to run the ball. I am still throw the ball 56 times, but Etienne could catch 9 balls out of the backfield in a game.
Now, it is an interesting way to look at the way teams handle star quarterbacks, right? It's a little different in Kansas City, where Mahomes came in and they had Tyreek Hill and they had Travis Kelce, and they just seemed to keep adding different guys to catch the ball. But look around the league at Aaron Rodgers. Always complaining, even complaining now. He wants the contract extension. He wants help on that offense.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson doing the same thing. Like, the guys get paid. The team then puts the roster together in a little different way, almost to say to the quarterback, hey, buddy, we're paying you $35 million a year, $40 million a year. You should be able to do it. And it happens. And that's not the case with Josh right now. Yeah. I mean, he has Stephon Diggs, and he has Cole Beasley, and
Davis,
now, and Gabe Davis and everybody else that they have on the offense. But at a certain point, that may change a little bit, right? It might be that Josh is one of those quarterbacks that they expect a lot out of, and they look to fill those roster spots in other ways. And as we mentioned, the contract changes too. So, look, I know you're right. They're never going to be a running team.
Yeah.
But, at times, Seattle ran the ball. Green Bay ran the ball. But you got to run it effectively. And they didn't do it.
That's exactly what it is. We know this offense is going to move through Josh Allen. We know that's going to be the case.
And it should.
And it should, absolutely. But at the same point, if that's not working, to have something else up your pocket as opposed to just being like, we're just going to force the ball and see what happens. Of course. No, I agree.
Up your sleeve.
Yeah.
Up your sleeve.
In your pocket.
In your pocket. We've been in the rain
all day.
That was great.
Yeah. Up your
pocket.
Down your pocket? What
no,
is
in your pocket. Up your sleeve.
I've been up so early. We've been.
Oh my God! It's just nonstop complaining here, Dan.
No, it's fine. I'm glad you corrected that. It sounded wrong when I said it, but I didn't know how it was wrong.
Oh, it was wrong. Yeah.
Well, yeah, things are going well here, Dan.
Well, and that's the thing.
We've been getting great comments. We want we want the comments to continue. We want to know what you guys think to what the Bills should do. Everybody's got different opinions.
Yeah.
I will say the Bills fans we've run into, it's funny, for many years they wanted a star, right? Mm-hmm. They wanted a guy. Well, they have stars now.
Yeah.
And they're just like, get us a pass rusher, get us a cornerback, right? Get us a lineman. Mm-hmm. They know, right? And yes, some people want the running. I get it, that part. But I think they're realizing that this team needs players, not necessarily stars. They'll take a guy becoming a star, but they need players.
I will say too, it's not the best weather out here. We have seen so many Bills fans
all over the place.
I would say, other than Browns jerseys, the most we've seen in terms of other teams has been the Bills. Very well represented out here. We know obviously Bills Mafia travels well, but even out here, it's been very cool to see. And everyone does have an opinion, but like Mike was saying, it is a lot more about, hey, why don't we go and get a corner or get someone that maybe will be a starter in next year, or someone they can work into the roster, or someone like that, as opposed to, hey, let's get Sammy Watkins or someone of that caliber in a different, obviously, time before. It's been cool to see that, though.
Yeah.
This has been a time where, everybody can have an opinion, but the one common thread, and Mike, we talked about it during the 6 o'clock newscast, or actually it was at 5 o'clock when you were talking to the fans, is that there's a calm and this sense that Brandon Beane knows what he's doing. You asked a Bills fan how much faith you had in Brandon Beane, and he stared you right in the face with a mask on and said, I trust him with my life. That is the level that is going on here. And like I said, I can get behind any pick that Brandon Beane were to make at 30 besides a quarterback. That's the only position that I would scratch my head at. It would be like when the Packers drafted Jordan Love last year and I went, that was a dumb pick. But this is kind of the time where he can spin it as, we need a defensive lineman because we always need depth. You could always use an edge rusher. A corner could come right in and play. Even though we have probably the best safety duo in the league in Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, what about another safety? Because what if one of those guys goes down? Again, building depth here. I don't think that the Bills need to swing for the fence here and find some bona fide starter. And that's why I just don't see them moving up and giving up somebody that they could find and build depth later in the draft. But this is, for the first time covering this team, going, I have no idea where they're going to go. Even last year, we knew they were going to probably get an edge rusher. They needed to increase their pass rush, Jenna. We just didn't know when or who it was, but we kind of had a thought that, this is where they were going to go.
Yeah, and what was cool to see about last year is obviously the Bills traded out of the first round. They made that trade, with Minnesota. They got Stephon Diggs, and to see Brandon Beane, he talked about after how hard it was to just kind of sit there on his hands and be like, I'm not going to make a trade in the first round. We're not going to go up. We have our board. We're sticking to it. So that was pretty cool to see because, then you saw them pick up a need. Jerry Hughes is getting older. Obviously, Mario Addison is also getting older. They can address some of those needs that they're going to need in the future. But to see Brandon Beane, kind of hang back and stay according to their plan. And I think because of that, it makes me feel differently about how they will approach this year and what they do.
Well, that's a good point. And if you think about drafting A.J. Epinesa, now, we did know they were picking him because I predicted it.
You did predict that.
Okay.
Correct.
But the reason I say that is A.J. Epinesa was brought in last year to help, to contribute, to grow. And I think we would all agree he really did show flashes during the year. And I think they're going to expect a lot more out of him this year. He's more of a power rusher on the outside, learning the game a little bit more, can move inside and out. I think if they go for the pass rusher this year, it's more for the speed guy.
Yeah.
It's to replace Jerry Hughes. It really is what they're going to need. Mm-hmm. But the idea of, was A.J. Epinesa a good pick? I think the jury's going to be still out. He played 1 year.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think he's going to play more and more. So when you make the pick, you think of it like he's their first pick.
Yeah.
How much is he going to play? And remember, there was almost like panic when he was inactive for a game. It's like, he'll get on the field. And he did. And that's what I think when you look at these guys. And you're right, Dan. All of them can contribute, but they're a team that could line up right now without any draft picks and be still the best team in the AFC East and one of the best teams in the division.
Yeah.
But you do need those picks, and you need them to contribute like we saw last year, as you mentioned, with Moss and Davis and Bass.
Yeah.
You know, those three guys really were the biggest contributors from the draft class. So
yeah.
Jenna,
more comments?
We have a great comment from Rick saying, "Did you predict the rain?" Not enough of it.
But you know who did was our buddy John Doss, former 13 Wham sports anchor. We've seen him here, and he works here in Cleveland, covers the Browns. And I believe his text to us was, "Prepare for awful weather."
In caps.
Yeah. And he was right on the money with that. So, he's not a meteorologist, but do we really need those guys to tell us it's going to rain? Sorry, Glenn, Scott, Mark, all of you guys, but yeah, we knew it was going to rain tonight.
It's just going to be one of these situations where we are going to sit back and kind of wait, and I think there will be a lull because after the quarterbacks go in the top 10, and then maybe a running back, whether Najee Harris goes at 20 or something like that, then all of a sudden I think we'll start to be kind of being glued even more to wondering where the Brandon Beane smokescreen is. And I know there's been the smokescreen about Travis Etienne and people talking about, well, would he come out and say this? Guys, that's not Beane coming out and saying those things. That's agents talking, that is other GMs talking about these things. So it will be a fun night. I hope the Bills make a pick, and maybe the rain slows down for you guys. Maybe.
All right. So everybody hang in there. We're taking a quick break. We're coming back on TV. We're staying here on Facebook and YouTube. Stay with us. We will be right back in a minute with the start of the 13 Wham ABC Let's Talk Football Live.
It's time to give your opinion on the Bills and the NFL. Let's Talk Football Live. Now, here's the 13 Wham sports team.
Good evening and welcome to Cleveland, Ohio, site of the 2021 NFL Draft. After a year of all virtual, the in-person draft is back on, and it's the beginning of a very big weekend for the Buffalo Bills. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Catalana. Happy you're with us, along with Jenna Cottrell here in Cleveland. Dan Fates in our studios in Rochester. We are set for a big night to get you ready for what we expect the Bills to do and the entire AFC East. And that's big for the Bills. We know the fans are ready for tonight. Now, how about Brandon Beane, the guy in charge? In Beane we trust, is what a lot of fans say. He has a very good roster, and this may be a cliche, but for Beane, it actually fits.
At the end of the day, at 30, we're going to try to take the best football player we could take. We really are. And, you'd love to say, hey, this guy's going to come in and start right away, day one. But it's going to depend on which position. We'll think long-term more than short-term, but, we'll see how it goes. It'll be a good player.
Well, they hope it's a good player. I think that's the plan, right, Jenna, if you're going to draft a guy?
I would say so, yeah. I think tonight we'll see definitely some guys coming off the board. Of course, Buffalo looking for short-term, long-term success as well with the 30th pick right now, but a lot could be going on.
All right, so here's what we're going to do for you. We're going to break down the three position groups that we think are the most likely that the Bills will look to draft. And we'll give you players that you can keep an eye on or an ear for tonight that the Bills could be picking at 30th. Maybe, as Dan said, trading up or trading back for the upcoming draft. Well, we'll begin with the defensive backs, cornerback, because I think that's a spot. And, Dan, it's a guy that I actually had them picking in my mock draft. I moved him back because of some other issues, but he's a talented guy who could be on the board when the Bills pick 30th.
Yeah, Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech probably was going to be a top 10 pick at one point in his career, but he has had tons of injuries. Since the last time he's played, he has had 2 back surgeries. He's also had an ACL injury, but this guy has all the talent. He was supposed to be in Cleveland, but then he tested positive for COVID. He opted out last year. There's a lot of It's a lengthy injury report for this guy, but the talent is there. Just like A.J. Epinesa last year, guys, where A.J. Epinesa fell out of the first round or fell farther than people thought, Caleb Farley could be that same way this year.
Yeah. Jenna, also in the defensive backfield, a guy, well, I covered his father playing in the NFL, so go ahead.
Asante Samuel Jr., the son of Asante Samuel, obviously the Patriots, two-time Super Bowl champion. But yeah, his son is a guy coming out of Florida State. He's a guy who's a little bit smaller, but wiry, physical. He was team captain for the Seminoles this year. You know how much Sean McDermott loves a guy like that. He brings that tenacity, and again, he's a guy that they could look to be a starter opposite of Trey White. He has the skill set, and he's also a humble guy, too.
Yeah, well, they like that, humble and hungry, right? If they stay at 30, I think there is a guy that fits the trust the process mantra so well. Is from Northwestern, and he could be the Bills' #1 pick.
I mean, Newsome again is their best cover corner.
While the mock drafts have Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn as the top cornerbacks in the draft, Greg Newsome of Northwestern begs to differ.
Yeah, I mean, when the team drafts me, first of all, they're going to get the best corner in the country.
Newsome takes to the field with a mindset that is perfect for the Bills' culture.
And, just playing with that chip on my shoulder, I think, I was slept on. I still think I am in this draft and even during the season and even in college football. So, every single down, every single practice, I'm going to play with that chip on my shoulder.
He also plays a system that fits right into Sean McDermott's idea of 1/11th. Do your job on defense.
I think if I eliminate those deep routes, I don't think a team's going to beat us. So just knowing that and knowing, where my help's coming from and knowing that my guy on the other side of the field is also doing his job, I don't want to let the team down.
And like I said, he fits the culture.
Off the field, I'm probably, one of the nicest, sweetest guys. But on the field, I flip a switch, and I'm a competitor. So, I hate to lose.
Nice, sweet guy that flips the switch. Dan, we know corner is obviously an area of need, but man, they need help with the pass rush too.
Yeah, and Jason Oweh could be the guy out of Penn State. He's a guy that if they draft him tonight, we're going to talk about traits over production. This guy is 6'5", 250, didn't have a single sack this year at Penn State. Still was a first-team Big Ten player. Guy, 6'5", ran a 4.39 40. Don't worry about the sack numbers. Oof. He could get sacks in this Bills offense. I'll say that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, I got another guy for you. Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia. They say he is built like a superhero.
I saw that.
Who wouldn't want to be done, thickly muscled arms, tapered waist, Yeah, Dan, that's what we talk about. He's a humble teammate, character guy, first freshman in the Kirby Smart era to be named a captain. He's been more of a 3-4 pass rusher, but again, he gets to the quarterback, Jenna.
Well, there's another guy also that I want people to take a look at. He's out of Miami. He's a guy that has special traits, and I think he could very well fit in the Bills system. At 6'7", 260 pounds, Miami's edge rusher Gregory Rousseau is an athletic freak. But in 2020, Rousseau decided to opt out of the season, a decision he made for his family, but one that kept him away from his team.
I mean, it was tough at times just sitting back and watching and not playing and being removed from the game for a year.
He missed time on the playing field, but Rousseau was very active in the gym.
I feel like I got a lot better, just working every single day. I was at Excellence in Pensacola, just being dedicated, being diligent about everything, focusing on flexibility, focusing on just a lot of D-line stuff just to get ready for the next level. And I feel like I made the most out of my opportunity.
He has size and speed, but the downside for Rousseau is he doesn't have a lot of tape. He had a breakout season in 2019 with 15.5 sacks, but that's really all NFL scouts have to go off of.
I feel like I showed a lot in the time that I did play my redshirt freshman year. I feel like I proved a lot. I also feel like I'm a very versatile athlete, and I fit into a lot of schemes, and I'm just somebody who's going to be a hard worker from day one. I'm ready to get to the next level.
So only one season of production, but 15.5 sacks. He's 6'7". There's a lot of upside there.
All right. There's another route they could go, and we've talked about this a lot, Dan. Mm-hmm. Do you want another playmaker? Josh Allen makes plays. Do you want another? If they do that, It could be a running back, as we've talked about. We'll talk about that in a second. It could be another wide receiver, and they could always use a guy. And Kadarius Toney is one of those guys out of the University of Florida. He is an athletic player. I mean, that's the best you could say. They use him as a returner. They use him as a pass catcher, ball carrier on reverses. He's got big upside. A lot of people look at him as a number 3 guy. I think of a upgraded Isaiah McKenzie. As much as we love Isaiah, I think he's got more speed and more explosiveness. If they want that route, this guy could be there on the board at 30.
Okay, well, if they do want to go more running back, we've heard about one a lot, but what about Najee Harris out of Alabama? 6'2" guy, kind of built like a Derrick Henry-esque type of player. He had 50 touchdowns in the last 2 seasons, 35 catches last year, a lot of upside from it. Look, he had a lot of a workload in college, but still, he's a guy that could be ready and translate immediately.
All right, Dan. Your turn. Running back, what do you got?
Yeah, look, I'm not a huge fan of running the ball. I am team let Josh Cook throw the ball 60 times a game. But if the Bills are looking to upgrade the position, they could do so in the first round in the backfield with Travis Etienne. Brandon Beane said earlier this month the Bills don't currently have a home run hitter in their backfield, but they could add one today with Travis Etienne.
Etienne explodes through the hole. One man with a chance to stop him, Jalen Elliott, and he will not.
I'm one of the best skilled guys in the draft. I'm able to do it all. I mean, I feel like I had that component to that team to the next tier, you know. I feel like me being in the game, I just possess a lot of things that just God-given and most guys don't possess.
Etienne was a human highlight at Clemson with 22 plays, over 40 yards, and 78 total touchdowns with his time with the Tigers.
Etienne will make the first down and break free.
He ran a 4.41 40 at his pro day and is regarded as the best pass-catching running back in this class. He's been compared to Dalvin Cook and Alvin Kamara. And what does Etienne think about being in the same class as 2 of the best running backs in the league?
And I feel like both those guys are very dynamic guys, and they're able to just change the game, running the ball and catching the ball. So I feel like, yes, my game is fair to say it's fair to compare me to those guys.
Yeah, big comparison there. He would have been the first running back taken in last year's draft, but decided to come back because he wanted to be an inspiration and a role model to his little brother and to the kids back in Jennings, Louisiana. Fits the Bills, guys, on and off the field.
No doubt about it. All right, it's not just about the Bills tonight, but how it affects them. When we come back, we're going to look at what the AFC East has going on tonight, who the Jets are bringing in, and who the Patriots may go after when we come back on Let's Talk Football live from Cleveland. Yep, everybody's still with us. We got some good stuff. Yep, we're going to got some good stuff we're going to talk about with the division, and I think it's big. I think it's big for the Bills, what goes on. By the way, behind us, you can see the stage. They just sang the national anthem here in Cleveland, so they're getting ready, and the weather has improved a little. I know we've made a lot about it, but it was pretty miserable for the longest time. So Jenna's getting stuff set here. We're going to continue with our show here in a second, but we're going to talk a little bit about the division, and I think it's pretty interesting. Little behind-the-scenes talk here to Melody, our producer. We may try to move this segment along a little quicker, pick up some time because, you know, Jenna talks a lot.
Yeah, you know, a little inside baseball today.
Dana, if you got any comments, you go ahead and read them for us at the moment as we get set for the next segment. But this is going to be pretty fascinating, what happens tonight. Yeah. It's going to impact this division for a long time.
Yeah, somebody makes a comment,
having a good time back
Lone
there.
Wolf, saying that why would somebody draft a gadget player at 30? I think he's talking about Kadarius Toney. I think he just would be another weapon. I think that's what we're talking about, is adding weapons. You look at a guy like Tyreek Hill or Clyde Edwards-Helaire, where you would just want to get the ball in his hands and then let good things happen. So I think there are some ones there. And some people are saying
you're right.
to trade up a little bit to take Jason away.
Yeah, okay. But you make a point about that, and you're right. And maybe the first round is early for that. But they use a guy like, they use guys in different forms. And if you really want to get more out of that position, you could make the pick. Wow, that's loud.
There's a whole rock concert here right now.
Mike, you talked about the fact that you draft Tony might be a little early. The Bills are pretty much picking anybody that falls, in my opinion, 30 to 55 on the big board are eligible for them to take at 30. Like, they may not be able to get back to get these guys late in the second round. So if they like somebody and they say this guy's going to happen, draft him at 30.
They could. All right, hang in. Here we go. His name is Zach Wilson, and he's expected to be the second pick in the draft tonight. The New York Jets will be starting over at quarterback after trading Sam Darnold to the Carolina Panthers. Welcome back to Cleveland. Mike Catalano, Jenna Cottrell, Dan Fates in the studio. And Dan, let's get right to it. What's going to go on in this division tonight with the other three teams? It's a major night for all of those teams trying to form their own identity, and quarterback's a big part of it.
Yeah, who knows where Mac Jones is going to go? People talking about maybe New England possibly trading up for him. Mac Jones may be the one guy that people are most divided on. People that don't know the X's and O's necessarily of football think this guy stinks. Like people thought Josh Allen would stink. And then you have these guys that know the analytics and know next level of football. They say that Mac Jones is the smartest quarterback in this year's draft. Could somebody move up to get him, or could he fall to New England at 15?
Yeah, and New England could make a move up, right? We don't know what's going to happen tonight. There's also the possibility, Jenna, of Justin Fields.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, could he end up with the New England Patriots after tonight?
Well, that's another guy you think that could work out there. Obviously an incredible athlete, also has the smarts. At Ohio State, able to play so well with that team. He's the type of guy that you could see leading a team. And look, New England, they have a ton of weapons. We know that this year they brought back a lot of guys. They signed a lot of guys in free agency. We know Bill Belichick doesn't always do that. So you know they're gearing up. And it's Justin Fields going to be their QB.
Yeah, and Dan, the thing about it is, you know, people say Belichick hasn't done this before. Well, he hasn't needed to do it. But he needs to do something soon, or get Jimmy Garoppolo back, something to give him more than Cam Newton to challenge the Bills.
Yeah, he's never drafted a quarterback in the first round, but it helps when you've had Tom Brady. And Mike, to talk about things that Bill Belichick has never done, he has never spent $250 million in the offseason on free agents before. The Patriots are kind of lightly tapping the panic button because they can't have another year where they are abysmal offensively. Watch for Bill Belichick to make a splash tonight. Made a lot of calls. They're calling to go up. They're calling to go down.
Yeah, he's going to have to make moves. How about the Dolphins, though? I think the Dolphins are a team that we already know has the talent, and they have 2 picks in this first round, including an early one at number 6. Dan, they could be going for a weapon.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts. They talk about building a football player in a lab. I don't think you could build one as good as Kyle Pitts. The guy is just an absolute freak and a mismatch. And the problem is, Bills fans are hoping that Atlanta stays put at 4 and takes him, because otherwise he's going to be a headache twice a year for Bills linebackers and safeties.
Yeah, you think about that, right? They could go for him. Yeah. They could get Jamar Chase, the wide receiver out of LSU. And Jenna, when it comes to guarding tight ends, that was a problem for the Bills.
Yeah.
If Miami ends up with Pitts to go with Gesicki and New England signed 2 tight ends, that's going to be an issue 4 times a year.
You think Brandon Beane might be thinking about that and how to address that, and maybe they can do that this upcoming weekend, but that is a huge question mark. We know the Bills did struggle with that, and there's that opportunity for the AFC East to get stronger that much more in the category.
All right, Jenna just mentioned Brandon Beane. His picks are coming up in about 3 hours, the first pick, but he has options, right? As we said, will he stay? Will he go? Will he move back? What's Brandon Beane going to do? What does he say about it? And we'll talk about the state of the current Bills roster when we come back here in Cleveland on Let's Talk Football Live.
All right, we shaved a little bit of time off there, guys. Well done for the behind-the-scenes stuff behind the curtain. We're only 2.5 minutes heavy for those people that are keeping track at home, keeping Melody, our producer, on her toes.
I was just checking battery.
Okay, so this is right.
You can hold that.
This we can shorten here.
Yes. It got really cold again.
It got cold again.
It got cold again.
This is nonstop complaining that I deal with.
It got
There are a
cold
couple
By
again.
the way,
people,
I'm freezing too. It's
yeah.
been cold.
Rick Utney said, "Are you guys at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?" Because I think everybody's getting
It's
a
right
great
behind
listen
us.
of the
Right
concert.
back there. Right there.
Yes.
Yep, it's right back.
There's the Science Center, First Energy Stadium. I feel like Vanna White. First Energy Stadium. The stage is actually very cool, though. You can see all the lights behind us. They have it all set up. It's kind of enclosed, even though it is outside. You guys can't see, but right now there's a bunch of fans to our left that are getting ready, overlooking, watching the concert going on right now. That is very loud behind us.
Yeah, and we are just across the street. We'll be heading down to the draft area after this, but there's a lot of fans here, and the NFL experience is right down behind us, too. So I got to say, a hearty bunch here in Cleveland. There are good fans here.
Yeah.
Like in Buffalo, they've put up with a lot, and they've got a good roster, too. And that's one of those teams chasing the Bills right now.
Well, they have 9 picks tonight.
Yeah.
And because of that, will 9 picks even make their roster? Are they going to package up, maybe try and move up, make some moves tonight? Or this upcoming week. Something to see, but definitely another team that got a lot better in the AFC.
Yeah. Just everybody keep in mind, it is a weekend. It's not just, I mean, look, last year the Bills didn't even have a pick on the opening night, and they made it to the AFC Championship game.
And it was still stressful.
It always is.
It always is.
All right, 20 seconds, and then we will be back, guys. So we'll take a quick break. We'll go to black, and then we'll come back on Facebook, Buffalo Plus YouTube page, as well as 13 Win.
The Bills made the decision to run it back this offseason, bringing back nearly all the key players, including linebacker Matt Milano. That impacts the amount of open roster spots they have this year. Welcome back to Cleveland with Jenna Cottrell and Dan Fates. I'm Mike Catalana. Jenna, they did bring a lot of guys back. This roster is a run it back, and I think that's a big positive for the franchise.
I completely agree. It was kind of surprising this offseason to see that, but Matt Milano coming back, John Feliciano, another name, Darrell Williams, that dramatically changes what they're looking for when they already have guys locked up. Now, it makes a difference for who they're going to look out for getting this upcoming weekend, but again, they're having those guys back. They want to bring those guys back. They are, and it shows the culture they're bringing and the success that comes with that.
But, Dan, the other thing it does for Brandon Beane, and it's what he loves, he's got options tonight.
Yeah, he knows how to wheel and deal on draft nights. And over the last 3 drafts, there have been an average of 4 trades between picks 20 and 32. And Brandon Beane said he would be shocked if his phone isn't ringing at pick 30.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a guy on our board that we go, man, I'm just hypothetically, there's a guy, 10 spots away at 20, and we're going, man, this guy is really fits us. He's everything we want. He's going to make a big impact now and long term. You'd have to talk about it and of course see what it costs, and then obviously you'd have to have the team, willing to make that move with you. So we won't be afraid to go up. We won't be afraid to pick at 30. And listen, if we get at 30 and we go, man, we think we can get a similar player going back and someone's fired up for the pick, then we'd listen to that too. So we're willing to go either way or definitely take that pick at 30.
It'll be an interesting thing to see what Brandon Beane does, but in Beane, we trust, says Bills Mafia.
Yeah, well, one of the things that was rumored was the Bills moving up for Travis Etienne, the running back. We know what a lot of you, including Dan, think about that in normal cases, especially moving up. Our sponsor, Greg Connors, also has an opinion on it. It's more like Dan's, but guess what? Greg says, in Beane, I trust.
Would I do it? No. But then again, I don't get paid the money he gets paid to scout and to have that and to have, he has a vision. He and McDermott have a vision. And if they think that if they can get a running back at 30 that completes that offensive vision, that gives them that extra weapon that Daboll needs to really make this offense multifaceted, even more than it was last year, because the run game was the weak point last year on that offense. That is their weakness. Then obviously, I trust in Beane. I trust in McDermott.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening tonight, and we thank Greg for his support with the show, and he's ready and watching tonight, ready for the Bills to make a pick. All right, when we come back, we're going to make our picks, who the three of us think the Bills will select when they're on the clock at number 30, when we come back on Let's Talk Football Live. Perfect. There we go.
Great.
Yeah, so it's hard to really predict this year's draft, I think. And I think we all have thought about the position groups.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool that Beane has so many options tonight.
I just think that says how far along this team is.
Yeah.
The fact that even just a couple years ago it was, who are they going to get for quarterback? I mean, how are they going to structure their offense? What are they going to do? And just to see how far along they are in this build, even though it's really only been, 4 years, I think that just says a lot about where they're going as well. So it's been fun to see.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it makes a difference. I mean, look, even talking to the prospects last year when we were at the Combine in Indy, all the players were like, yeah, like Buffalo, okay, cool. After this year, hearing the interviews, players' faces lighting up when they're like, how would you feel about going to Buffalo? Like, they win there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's changed. It's changed a lot.
Yeah.
And players are excited about it, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, but in all likelihood, the player the Bills are going to pick tonight isn't here because it's limited still with the amount of players here. It could happen. I mean, it happened in Philly in 2017, and they trade all the way back, but Tre'Davious White was there, and he was so excited to be the first-round pick of the Bills. And look at him. He's one of their leaders, and they've signed him to a second contract, and it's worked out great. So, we'll have our picks coming up. And then remember, all of our coverage on Buffalo Plus, the YouTube page. We thank all of you for the support there.
Yes.
The page is growing. Dan and I came up with that idea a while ago, and it's really taken off, and we appreciate all of your support. And we're going to even be doing more this year. I've got some great ideas.
Yeah,
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
Guys,
right, Dan? Good job, Dan. Thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate it. But it's funny too how
it's been fun.
How this has worked out too, where
but I will say this:
go into draft night now, Mike, with excitement and some faith. And I look at some other fan bases where they're kind of waiting to be disappointed on draft night, like, oh no, how are we going to mess this up? It seems like Beane, on the other hand, I kind of joked around calling him Mr. April. Like, he's hit on so many that Bills fans are like, hey, whatever he does on Monday,
This is Ed Oliver, taken to the stage when he was drafted in Nashville in 2019. And guess what? The commissioner gets to hug the players again tonight.
Sure, they're
He's
pumped.
fully vaccinated. Everybody is ready. Hey, welcome back. It's time for us to make our picks on who we think is going to be selected by the Bills, at least in the first round, pick number 30. And I'll get it started tonight. It's a guy I already talked about. I think they're going to go corner. And I really like Greg Newsome, the second, out of Northwestern. I think he is the type of player that fits the culture. I liked Caleb Farley with his talent, but I think Newsome is the guy. Jenna, what do you have?
So I have another Greg. I have Gregory Rousseau, the edge rusher out of Miami. Again, 6'7", freak type of athlete. He was also a guy, he opted out of last year, but he had 15.5 sacks in the previous seasons. He's a guy who's been working with Calais Campbell, obviously an all-pro, Pro Bowl type of guy. Calais Campbell saying he is the guy, he will translate well, and I think the Bills pick him.
Dan, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm going to the dark side, guys. I know this isn't what I want. This is what I am hearing. Obviously, we've seen other sources talk about it, but my source says the Bills are in love with Travis Etienne. They may trade up for him, but they want to find the answer at running back. Etienne, I do believe, adds another dimension to this already top 5 offense. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I've talked myself into it. Travis Etienne, Clemson at 30.
All right, we'll see. That would be an exciting pick. We'll see what the Bills do tonight. We want to thank all of you for being with us on Let's Talk Football Live. For Rusty and Melody, who are taking care of things in the control room tonight, great job as always. For Dan Fates back in Rochester and for Jenna Cottrell with me here in Cleveland, thanks for watching. Stay right here on 13 because the draft is coming up live. We are here in Cleveland. ABC has the coverage beginning in a few seconds. Follow us on Buffalo Plus and the YouTube page to check out the latest on what happens with the Bills. Thanks for being with us. Enjoy the draft, and we'll see you again later tonight.